Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for today's WiCyS webinar. My name is Morgan Garland. I am the board liaison with WiCyS. And with me today, I have Bob and Rachel from Fortinet, who are going to be leading the presentation. Before we get started, though, I just want to do a quick overview of the WiCyS organization for those of you who are not familiar with us. WiCyS is a 501c3 nonprofit organization with a global reach dedicated to bringing together women in cybersecurity from academia, research, and industry. We often go by our acronym WiCyS, as in We Sisters, because that is exactly what we are. We are a global cyber sisterhood. We have a range of initiatives and skills development training programs that we offer throughout the year for all career levels. Some of our initiatives include the monthly newsletter, our annual conference, which is going to be taking place in March of 2026. It's the 11th to 13th at National Harbor. And additionally, we have our job board that we have open year-round too, available to our members that our strategic partners can always share their open jobs. So be sure to check that out. And then we have a variety of different programs too that are always launching and opening up. Some of the current programs that we have open for enrollment if you're interested. We have our book club coming up. We have the VDP program, our aspiring mentorship program, SAN Cyber Range, and so much more. You can check out all of this on our program page at WiCyS.org. And we owe all of our wonderful initiatives to our strategic partners, our tier one partners being Akamai, Amazon, Bloomberg, Cisco, Ford, Google, Lockheed Martin, Optum, Palo Alto Networks, SANS, and SentinelOne. And just a reminder today to ask questions. We do have time reserved at the end for a Q&A. You'll see a little box on your screen where you can enter your question at any time throughout the webinar, and we will get to those at the end. And if you have not done so already, please subscribe to the WiCyS newsletter. You can join our mailing list by visiting our website at WiCyS.org. And with that, I will turn it over to Rachel and Bob to kick off today's webinar.
Great. Thank you so much, Morgan. It's such a pleasure to be here with you on this WiCyS webinar in December. And I am Rachel Musa, joined here by my colleague, Bob Cunningham. Today, we are going to share with you about a networking fundamentals bootcamp that we are hosting in February. So today I'll let you know a little bit about Fortinet, and then we'll dive into a taste of what the bootcamp is all about. I'm proud to say that I am also a WiCyS member, part of that sisterhood, and a woman in cybersecurity. It is a growing field and an excellent field to get into. I've collectively been in cybersecurity for the past 10 years and at Fortinet for the last 6 years. So today, let me just dive in to share with you a little bit about the company and then how to get enrolled in the bootcamp. So for the past 25 years, Fortinet has been innovating and bringing the convergence of networking and cybersecurity. This is where that bootcamp comes in, is so important. While cybersecurity is a growing field, if you don't know the network that you're securing, then how do you know what you're doing? So that is where Fortinet has really had a strong place in network security. We have been a company that has been profitable since 2009 when we went IPO every year. And we are an end-to-end pure player in cybersecurity, from networking to operational technology, SD-WAN, security operations, and secure access services edge. With over $7 billion in billings and 100,000 employees, 15,000 employees and over 100,000 customers, Fortinet is celebrating our successes in the NASDAQ and S&P, NASDAQ 100 and S&P 500. So we are out there. You may have heard about us from being part of WiCyS. If you've attended the annual conferences in the past, the one that Morgan mentioned, Fortinet has been a key player in those conferences. Maybe you've met us at a webinar or at other events, or just know us from being out in the field. And the culture of Fortinet, we are very driven by our culture, which is innovation, teamwork, and openness. And when we say we have over 1,300 patents, that is where individuals like you who come with great ideas come and bring that kind of energy and innovation to our technology and continue to make cybersecurity cutting edge and improve as the threat landscape evolves. So Fortinet has a commitment to sustainability in our society, and from collaborating in key partnerships and addressing cybersecurity risks, we have a pledge to be net zero by 2030 and are committed to closing the cybersecurity skills gap by 2026 by training 1 million people. So 2026 is around the corner. We are moments away from it. And it's programs like these, the boot camp and our certification program, that will close that gap and help us reach our goal to 1 million. We count on many of you to participate in this boot camp for your own skills and upskilling, and to celebrate and being part of our trained cohort. So with that, I want to share with you how we go ahead and do our certifications. The Fortinet Training Institute has 11 certifications that start from the fundamentals of cybersecurity and ascend all the way to the expert levels. So when you decide to pursue a career in cybersecurity, you'll say you want to assess what your skills are. Are you just entering the field and need to bridge the gap into the IT world? That's where this boot camp is going to be perfect for you. It's that bridge to introduce you to the language, to give you that foundation and fundamentals of the networking. And then from there, get into the introduction of cybersecurity by understanding the threat landscape and assessing more about what it means to operate and orchestrate a firewall. So from this view here, we bring our certifications from the Fortinet Certified Fundamentals to Fortinet Certified Associate and Fortinet Certified Professional levels, and it continues on. And we bring that to universities, we bring it to individuals like you, all self-paced training where you take exams and earn a certification, industry recognized certifications. Before you get into the certifications, and if you're there already, we highly encourage you to pursue those immediately. Get on with it. And you can join and participate in all the learnings through WiCyS. We'll give you those exam vouchers as you graduate in those levels. But today, first, we want to make sure you understand what it means to enter into the field and know about fundamentals of networking. So this is the 4th year that we'll be offering this unique instructor-led boot camp. It's going to kick off in February of 2026. And we've had many WiCyS members participate. In the words of WiCyS members, individuals say that this program helps them build the confidence to enter the cybersecurity field. It gives them a base understanding of how to use the language and what the IT protocols are, IP protocols. There are several lessons, 9 lessons that you will take to learn about networking fundamentals. They're listed there on the left, everything from binary and hex to LAN basics, OSI, reference models, TCP, internet layers, all the way to the internetworking, the fundamentals, and virtualization and cloud computing. So with those key learnings that you get to learn over 9 sessions, each session is 2 hours long. They are instructor-led. They are recorded sessions, so you can go with them at your own pace. And you'll hear from Bob Cunningham, our distinguished trainer. He'll give you a taste of some of the learnings. But each of those lessons they have a quiz, and you pass the quizzes, and it's designed so you can go at pace, 1 session a week or 2 or as many as you'd like, but we want you to finish from February to April, and that will be the extent of the boot camp. Once you complete a final survey, you earn a certificate of completion, and that's when you get a chance to accelerate in your learnings and choose your path from there, and also to celebrate and post your certificate. There will be a way to connect with the instructor live and chat with one another, your peers and your classmates, and ask questions. But otherwise, there's course material and all the materials for learning about networking. Okay, so let's get enrolling and let's learn more about networking. The process to sign up for the bootcamp is to sign up through WiCyS. There is the newsletter. Make sure that you are registered for the newsletter. We'll follow up with the link to sign up. And once you sign up, that does not mean that you're in the course just yet. But once you sign up, you'll receive more information about how to enroll. And once you enroll, you'll be in the 9-week learning program and in the boot camp February through April. You can chat with your classmates, earn that certificate, and pursue your career in cybersecurity from there. So with that said, please reach out over the Q&A. I'll be around to answer any questions at the end. And without further ado, I want to introduce Bob Cunningham, our distinguished Fortinet trainer, who has led these boot camps from the beginning. And so we're very pleased to have him here to share more content with you.
All right. Well, folks, thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Let me take a moment to share my screen. Well, there we go. Okay. And that's all I want. All right. So I can't see my screen now. So I want to ask, Rachel, are you seeing my screen right now?
I do. It's not yet in presenter view.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay. So welcome. I wanted you to have a taste of the kind of things that we talk about in the boot camp. So I guess briefly, just so you know who I am, as mentioned several times. And Rachel, could you mute yourself, please? My name is Bob Cunningham. I'm coming to you today from my home in Dallas, Texas. I've spent about 45 years teaching in communications security. The reason I say communications security is I began teaching in this field before there were networks. So I started off my career as a United States Marine, and I was teaching the integration of cryptography and voice communication and teletype. In the past 45 years, I've worked for a lot of companies. Some I'm sure you've heard of. You've probably heard of Cisco. You've probably heard of Alcatel, Palo Alto. The past 6 years, I've worked here at Fortinet. And I, as mentioned, I wrote and delivered the Network Fundamentals course. So I thought it'd be fun to look at, what do we mean? You'll hear the term in security a lot today, next generation firewall. What does that mean? Well, to understand what that means, we have to start off with the lowly personal computer, which shows up in the late 1970s. And at that time, it is revolutionary. At that time, if you ever watch a TV show or a movie from before that time and they talk about a computer, they're talking about a machine that took up an entire room. The idea that you could have one of these computers that would fit on a desktop was science fiction. And it was really quite useful. You could do word processing, spreadsheets, databases, things that we take for granted now, but were just revolutionary at the time. And when they first come out, even a company could afford one or two of them. But it turned out that they became cheaper. Companies found it useful to get quite a few of these personal computers. But as useful as they were, they'd be a whole lot more useful if they could talk to each other. So the industry invented this thing we're going to call a switch. And the purpose of a switch, it's a device you plug computers into to create a network. When you hear that term network, it just means that this computer can talk to this computer and this computer, so on and so forth, and they can talk to each other and etc. That's all made possible through this device we call a switch. You plug the computer into the switch, and now they can talk to each other. A little more to it than that, but that's it in a nutshell. Now, I'm going to use an analogy here because we have to understand this before we can understand firewalls. And we have to understand firewalls before we can understand next generation firewalls. So I'm going to use an analogy here. Let me come out of this, come back into here. Clean all that up. Okay. I want you to imagine not that these are multiple computers plugged into a switch, but imagine that this is a office complex, and or a hotel or apartment building, maybe an apartment building. Each computer is like a different room or different apartment in the apartment building. And each one has an address or a person living in that apartment building. So in this case, this computer has the address of 10, 10, 10, 1. The reason I put these in two different colors is this is kind of the address of the entire building, or we'll call it the network, the 10, 10, 10 network. Within the 10, 10, 10 network or building, you would have apartment number 1, and then perhaps apartment number 2, and then perhaps apartment number 3. So we have what could be called a network address. And if we're going to get real technical and fancy, we're going to call the address in the end the host address. But for right now, we'll just call it the apartment address. So it looks kind of like this. Now, in the real world, we wouldn't have an address for the apartment building. In fact, I'm just going to remove these. Again, I want to clear my screen for just a second, get rid of all my writing on there. Writing's helpful, but as I move to further on in my illustration, it's going to become less useful. Okay, so now instead of calling this the 10, 10, 10 apartment building, it's going to have an address. In this case, it'll be 10 Pine Street, Anytown, Texas, USA. And instead of the address here being the .1 apartment, the .2 apartment, this will be apartment number 1, apartment number 2, apartment number 3. Now imagine that I want to send a message to apartment number 1. I could address it as 10 Pine Street, Anytown, USA, Texas, Anytown, Texas, USA, apartment 1. Now that's pretty much what we did back here. It would have been the 10, 10, 10 network, host number 1. Now, we're not quite done with the addressing piece. Because in an apartment, so my children are all raised and gone and had children of their own. I have 8 grandchildren, 6 children, 8 grandchildren. But at one time, there was 8 of us, my wife, myself, and our 6 children living in our home. So you can imagine that mail might come. Let's say we lived at 10 Pine Street, and let's pretend we were in an apartment. 10 Pine Street, Anytown, USA, apartment 1, Bob. That would be addressed specifically to me. In apartment 1, we might have somebody living there called Mr. Email. Someone else living there might be called Mrs. Web Browser. Someone else might be called Baby Time Protocol. Now, I think you can see my clever naming convention. I'm I'm using these to define applications. Why? Because when a message comes to a host, we not only have to tell it the network, 10 Pine Street, the apartment, the particular host, apartment 1, host 1, we have to tell it what program it's addressed to. Mr. Email, Mrs. Web Browser, little baby time protocol. Now, what that looks like in the real world is the names we have here that I've given, email, web browser, time protocol, are represented by numbers that are called port numbers. Networking has a lot of confusing things to it. This is one of them. A physical plug that you plug a cable into a computer is often called an interface or a port. But this is not the same port I'm talking about here. This is just a number that gets attached to the address. So the IP address specifies a particular network and a particular device on the network. The port number specifies a particular service or application on that device. So in fact, we use the port number 110 for email. And a web browser is represented by port number 443. A program is called the Network Time Protocol program, uses port number 123. So if I was sending a message from outside to this network, so these are all part of the same network, the same apartment building. The addressing I would use would be this network, this host, and on this host, the email program. That was all sort of background information required to understand what a firewall does. I also have to explain one more thing. In the 1970s and the 1980s, most of you aren't old enough to remember hippies and flower children and the age of Aquarius. We had this irrational belief that most people were good. If you're thinking about going into security, disavow yourself of that belief. Anybody, given the right set of circumstances, can do something that is quite evil. And some people do it just for fun. So we had virtually no security. We would just have these networks out there. And then all of a sudden, around the mid 80s, show up these people. We sometimes call them hackers. But originally, they were people who were just as a hobby trying to mess with our little pristine Garden of Eden and send something quite destructive to our host. It could be a program that would destroy the hard drive. It could be a program that would wipe out all your data. Today, these tend to be either members of organized crime because of the financial motive. We'll lock up your computer and we won't give it back to you until you pay us a ransom. Or these tend to be nation states. I want to secretly get into your computers, steal all the private information because as a intelligence operation, that information can be quite useful. But we'll stick with the 80s. These people were just blowing up stuff because it was fun. And we had no defense. You send a piece of code, a program that's destructive, that's going to wipe out a person's hard drive. You send it to 10.10.10.1 port 80. It's going to be delivered. It's going to be opened up. And it's going to destroy that computer or that network. As we looked at that, the technical term for that was ungood. Ungood. So along comes an invention called a firewall. The firewall would identify bad guys. Let's say this is our bad guy has the address, not the same network as we have. He's on a different apartment building, a different network, 83.130.11. And he is host 99. And he is sending his attack to apartment 1206, port number 1206. That's fine. There may be something that can execute on this computer, so it can be a different port number. But now we're going to introduce a device called a firewall. You see how I made the bricks? It's a firewall, you get it? And its job is to look for this set of addresses or this addressing convention. If you care, we actually call this a socket. But you could just think of it as a full address with the network, the host, and the individual in there, or network host and program, the apartment building, the apartment, and the individual. I want to stick with the illustration. This firewall looks for this information. It knows a network administrator said, we've had trouble with this particular player before. Let's block him. And it could block just on the network and the host, the network, the host, and the port number, or just the port number. So it's very flexible. And now when our evildoer, our hacker, is attempting to send us, we call all malicious software a shorthand term is malware. He's attempting to send us malware. The firewall catches that and stops him. In the meantime, any other IP addresses and ports that come through are delivered through the firewall to the switch to the individual host. And that was what traditional firewalls did. And the world went along just fine for about a decade or so. Because it turns out that in the protocol is just a fancy word that we use to say agreed upon language. So right now, we're talking to each other with the agreed upon protocol of English. If I was to switch over to a different language, so I lived about 6 years in Cairo, Egypt, so I speak a little bit of Arabic. So if I was to say to all of you, Ahlan bikum النهارده نتكلم عن, that would be a perfectly reasonable, acceptable protocol. Well, except that most of you don't understand that protocol. Some of you probably do. In a group this size, there'll definitely be some Arabic speakers. But my point is that when I say a particular protocol, I'm just talking about an agreed upon language, if you like, a set of rules that we use to communicate. In the protocols, the agreements that make up the internet, there's no security. And so there's nothing that stops evildoer here. Let's say that one of our well-known good guys has the address of 192.168.1.15. There's nothing that stops this evildoer from saying, oh yeah? Well, now I'm going to call myself 192.168.1.15. That's a lie. And one thing that will happen is that I will receive this traffic as 192.168.1.15. But when I go to reply, the reply will go over here to the real 192. But that's okay. Some attacks are what we call asymmetric, one way. They don't require that I have a two-way conversation. Like the illustration here, this is a bomb, right? We have what are called logic bombs and viruses. They don't require a conversation. They just require that the bad guy be able to deliver the malware to the endpoint. So this was a serious, serious problem. The solution to that problem is the next generation firewall. And to be fair to our friends who came up with the original firewalls and deployed them, honestly, what a next generation firewall does is not something that could have been implemented. This is just the person pretending to be a good guy. What a next generation firewall does is not something that we could have pretended, or we could have implemented rather, in the 1980s. Something that we'll talk about in the networking fundamentals class is a law. It's really an observed phenomenon. We'll call it a law. Like the law of gravity exists. It will always exist. It's not, you can't get around it. As a t-shirt I have says, gravity, it's not just a good idea. It's the law. Yeah, I'm that kind of person. I wear those shirts. This law, I'm going to quote you, is really an observed phenomenon. We don't know it's going to go on forever, but it has gone on since the late 60s. The law basically says that the processing power of a computer doubles every 18 months. Every 18 months. And the reason that's important for this thing I'm about to talk about, this next generation firewall, often called, so this is the name, next generation firewall. We often refer to it just as an NGFW, okay? This NGFW, or next generation firewall, requires a ton of processing power. So the guy who first observed this was an engineer with Intel in the late 1960s, Gordon Moore. It's called Moore's Law. And I've got a little gift for my oldest granddaughters, 13 and 12. It's a piece of paper. It says how to get your parents to give you $1 million. And it just says, tell them you'll do the dishes, but not for your normal allowance. You want to have a penny. Just a penny. But tomorrow you want 2 pennies. And the day after that, you want 4 pennies. You want them to double that just for a month. And of course, if you've not done the math out for that, that's more than $10 million at the end of the month. That doubling that occurs with Moore's Law is giving us some powerful, powerful machines. It's why we can have AI. It's why computers can have such powerful graphics. All right. So now we've got this powerful machine, this next generation firewall. What does it do? Well, this next generation firewall is going to look at, that's our little magnifying glass here, okay? It's going to look at the traffic deeply. We call this deep packet inspection. And because of this tremendous computing power, we can deeply look at these packets. And we can say, what's actually in there? So now we look at it in depth and we say, okay, I see it says it's coming from a known good source. But do I have an identity? Have I previously identified this? Who are you? Believe it or not, these IP addresses, these addresses we talked about that are network and host, they have a geography associated with them like a telephone number. So they can tell me where you are. Maybe traffic identified as Sally from Dublin, Ireland, is okay at a certain time of day, but not at a different time? Are you carrying a virus? We can look deep inside and examine the payload, the file being carried, and say, is this a virus? Sometimes, even if I've never seen the virus before. Are you going to a malicious or bad URL? Some URL, Uniform Resource List, is just the thing you type into your browser, dot, sorry. And how about I get that right? That's supposed to be a colon. I have a tough time drawing. I get that backwards? It doesn't matter. Example.com. That's called the URL, Uniform Resource Location Address. A website. So is this a website that we know hosts malicious software? Companies like Fortinet pay teams of engineers to work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day to identify new viruses as soon as they come out, to codify the entire internet. Say, hey, we can even say, that's not malicious software, but that's adult material, doesn't belong in our company. I might look at web-based applications and say, this application can come in here, but not this one. Dropbox is okay, but Carbonite, an online backup program, is not okay. Many other characteristics. Because of all that processing power, I can say, even if you are, if I believe that you are Phil from Mexico City, and I trust you, and it's the right time of day, but you happen to, maybe you don't even know it, you're carrying a virus, you're carrying a link to a malicious website, you have an application, it's an application I don't approve of, you have some other form of malware, many other characteristics. I can look deeply into this packet and decide, no, you can't come through for those reasons, which has amazingly improved our security posture, we call it, how secure our networks are. Now, I know we had a lot of technical stuff in here. So I want to give you a very non-technical, but I think solid illustration of what a next generation firewall does. This comes from the History Channel. And it's about a cutting edge technology from the 13th century called a castle. And the narrator has explained that the reason the castles were set up on a hill, okay, so here's the hill, here's the castle, C for castle, H for hill. The reason the castle was on a hill was so that when the bad guys came, they had to run up the hill, and the archers, that slows them down. The archers could pick them off with their little arrows. And you probably heard that most castles are surrounded by moats. The idea of the moat was what we use modern barbed wire for. Barbed wire does not stop an enemy. No modern enemy was stopped by barbed wire, but it slows them down. So again, your defenders can pick them off with rifles. Well, the same thing with the moat. Slows the bad guys down so you can pick them off. Okay, I'm going to pick it up right there. And let's see what this video says to us.
On the other side of the moat stood the wall and imposing towers. From these, archers showered arrows on the enemy. Towers projected from the walls to give archers a clear shot at the base of the neighboring tower. If an attacker survived the onslaught of arrow fire and made it through the moat, he could look forward to a warm welcome in the gatehouse.
Let's pretend that we've actually done it. We've crossed the moat, we're standing on our bridge, which is down, we're lucky, because normally there'd be a great drop straight down into the moat. But from either side now, we're threatened by those arrows. So we want to get out of this, and so we make our first major mistake, and we actually go into the gateway to get out of the fire. Now, the first line of defense in the gateway proper is the portcullis. Now, people think portcullises were made of iron. No, they're usually made of wood. The portcullis is raised and lowered in a groove. Here's a groove. Portcullises were things you could look through, things you could shoot through, but you couldn't walk through. Let's pretend we get beyond there. Well, beyond there, our next line of defense is this wooden gate. It's a reconstruction, but it's a fair reconstruction. It's about 5 inches thick, and you attacking it would hit it with a big battering ram, or potentially you would set fire to it. Now, look at the arrow slits to either side. From there, those crossbow bolts are going to be firing into us. But now, look up. Above your head, small square holes, murder holes, operated from above, and a nice big rock is posted down my head. And then you make probably your last mistake. You move on. You don't want to go back into there, into the gateway. You don't want to go in there. And so you move on into the center of the castle. But when you get into the center of the castle, look what happens. Look up there. Look at those arrow slits up there. And of course, people begin to shoot in. Those that have been firing out now turn around and shoot inwards, and you're surrounded. There's nowhere to go. Do you want to stand here and die? Do you want to go back through that gateway and die? Or do you want to go through a door and die? And a castle is a trap, like a noose. The harder you pull, the further you go, the worse off you
are. Okay. So that's what a next generation firewall is. Just like the castle was on the hill, and and had the moat, and if the archers didn't get you coming in, then you had the door. If the door didn't get you, you had the portcullis. The portcullis didn't get you, the murder hole got you. If the murder hole didn't get you, then when you got in the center of the castle, the inward facing archers would get you. That's, in a nutshell, what a next gen firewall does. Now, we will spend, if you sign up for our network introduction course, we'll spend 9 weeks together, 9 sessions, I should say, and we'll take a look at all of networking, the essentials of networking, in much more detail, but with the same type of philosophy of making complex things, I think, fairly simple to understand. I want to encourage you in this field. I encourage you to come on in. The water's fine. It's a great field if you're willing to work hard, you're willing to develop your skills so you bring actual value to an employer. But it can be a bit daunting at first because there's so much you have to learn. This is what a firewall is, just a taste of what we get involved: switching, routing, network management, Wi-Fi networking, analytics, endpoint protection, SOAR and SIEM, which are ways to log and automate based on what you see as a response, and much, 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 much more. But somebody once said, in fact, Lao Tzu said, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Some of you can be prepared for a well-paying job in just a year. Others of you may take several years. If you're in the several year category, I want to encourage you for a second. Let's say it takes you 3 years to prepare for a decent paying job in this field. Are you still going to need a job 3 years from now? I'll bet you will. Are you still going to want a job that is both meaningful and has great career growth opportunities? I'll bet you will. Take the next step. All right, to speak to us more about the next step, Rachel, I think that's your cue.
Fantastic. Take that first step. Thank you, Bob. I am intrigued to know what other shirts you have that have good gravity loss on them. And I'm sure they are peppered into the course and a very interactive way to learn, which actually brings us to a few questions that we have about the bootcamp. And I want to read off a few of these here for everyone to just know how to participate in this. One thing we want to emphasize is there engagements and activities along the way to practice skills, Bob?
So yes and no, but mostly no. So along the way, I will encourage you to download certain software and show you how to do it. For instance, Wireshark, which is a packet sniffing software, so you can capture packets and pull them apart. But you have to do that on your own. I'll talk a bit about VMs towards the end of the course. But much of this stuff is the theoretical underpinnings. This is not how to configure a router. It's what a router is. It's not how to configure a switch. It's what a switch is. It's not how to configure IP addressing. It's what IP addressing is. So there is not a lot of there's some things you can do on your own that I'll give you some resources for that are free. Great thing about networking and security, there's tons and tons and tons of free resources. And I'll point you to a number of those sources. But in terms of group activities, no. There's like, how many do we have here today? How many?
It's got a pretty large audience calling from all around.
So let's say it was just before we signed on, it was about 580, 590. Let's say it's over 600. Okay. Think about that from the perspective of Fortinet. When I teach a public class or I teach a class for money for Fortinet, they charge about $1,200 a day per student. Now, those classes are half lab. The reason they charge that much is those labs are that expensive. So we wanted to give you something that was both profitable, effective, and yet we could give it to you for free. So that's our compromise.
Awesome. Another question to emphasize here is if the program is open to WiCyS members, it is open to WiCyS members. Any type of WiCyS member that you are, you can participate in the boot camp. And if you are not yet a member of WiCyS, you can still participate in the boot camp. When you sign up through the look for the newsletter. There'll be a link in the newsletter to sign up, and you can let us know if you're a member or not. But that does not limit your access to this course.
For reasons that are not entirely clear to me, I'm not allowed to be a WiCyS member. I don't understand.
Hey, it's WiCyS and allies. Oh. Another question for someone who's transitioning into cybersecurity. What is some advice that you have? I know you said, Bob, take the first step. But tell us what advice, if someone has no background in cybersecurity.
That's the most important thing. But I will tell you something else. This is for both those who are transitioning from another career and those who are just starting off. The number one reason why people do not succeed in security and technology is not a lack of technical skills. It's a lack of professional skills. So if you're coming in from another career, you already have a big leg up. You have a proven track record of being able to get along in a corporate environment with your coworkers, of showing up to work every day, of being dressed and in your right mind, which you think would be a prerequisite, but is not always a prerequisite. So you bring a lot of skills to the table already. For both those who are just starting out and those who have been around for a while, perseverance. You can do this. The people who work in cybersecurity aren't geniuses. There's a couple of geniuses stuck in there. There's a couple of geniuses stuck in everywhere. There's a couple of geniuses stuck in selling hamburgers. But most of us are not geniuses. We just are plotters. We did the first thing. Then we did the second thing. Then we did the third thing. Now, the good news is this is a field where people, generally speaking, always exceptions, generally speaking, people do not care about your degrees. Certifications are great because they show me you know something specific about a specific topic. And so you can take those things at your own pace. You could be working in an existing career, and you could build those skills up until you're ready to make that transition. I'd also one last thing is, particularly those who are transitioning from another career. You are not the first. Lots of others have done that before you. One of the hardest things I ever did was to go through Marine Corps boot camp. And I remember about halfway through, maybe it was earlier, but one of my drill instructors talking to the entire platoon said, as tough as this is, several million men have been through this before. And at the time, we were all men there. Okay, so several million men have been through this before you. You're not the first one to feel like this. You won't be the last.
You get life lessons also through the boot camp. Couple other questions coming through, Bob, so just to leave time for them. Will we learn how to build firewalls or home lab during this course?
Home lab, yes. Firewalls, no. So let me give you a little briefly history of the course. We were offering free training to people back during the pandemic, and we had all kinds of people showing up. And the instructor to our firewall courses, the instructor would say, all right, go ahead and go to interface E1 and assign IP address 10.10.10.5/24. And the people would say, what's an IP address? And we had a series that happened like with a lot of topics we needed people to know before taking a security course. This course is designed to give you the name of the course, Network Fundamentals. A firewall is not a network device. It's not required to run a network to have a firewall. Firewall is just there once you have a network to keep the bad guys out. So now, will you be able to configure and set up a home network? Yes, and I'll be later on in the course, I'll be suggesting places to buy some home networking gear cheaply. I'm a big fan of cheapness. Okay, I cry every time I have to go to Amazon and buy a shirt that costs more than $20, because shirts should only cost $20. Everybody knows that. So I want you to not to break a bank or have to have a lot of money to do this. So the answer is yes on networking, no on firewalls.
Perfect. Some other questions that are coming in. Is the program free to enroll? It is. It's absolutely free to enroll for WiCyS members and others on this call. If you are a member or not, you can participate in the boot camp. It is 9 sessions long, and it goes over a long February through April. So it's more than 9 weeks long, but we suggest 1 session a week to stay on pace. They are live. They are instructor-led courses. You'll see Bob. They happen to be recorded ones, but there will be opportunities to engage with him live and your peers live. So there will be some ways to connect and ask your questions and get them answered. But there's also a self-paced version of the course. So if you go into the Fortinet Training Institute and create an account, you can take the self-paced course that does not have an instructor, and you can get the course material. In fact, we recommend enrolling in that just so that you have the course material and also the live instruction to go hand in hand. But you will complete the certificate.
Let me tell you on the self-paced course. It's kind of funny calling them. They're both self-paced now. It's just
they're both self-paced.
But the one that has the what we're calling live instruction is a recording of me teaching a live class. The self-paced course, a reason to complete that as well is that it does cover a few topics that we don't cover in the recording of the live session. So it's and one of the keys to all learning is repetition. So hear it from a different perspective, hear it at a different pace. Well worth doing both.
Very good. Do we get CPE credits for this course, Bob?
Nothing official. Okay, you can make the case. There is a syllabus, so you can make the case to whatever organization you're looking at and say, "Hey, I did this thing." I know with the ISC squared for the CISSP, you can show them. You can go to like a seminar and even a vendor seminar. If you can show them what you covered, they'll often give you credit for that. but there's nothing where we've had it evaluated and said this is equal to 2 or 3 CPEs.
Perfect. If someone's interested in becoming a cybersecurity analyst, is this a good foundational course?
Yes. So as Rachel mentioned, you can't very well protect networks if you don't understand networks. Okay. One of the great things about network security for me, more than 45 years, is that it's like a big giant ocean. There's always new stuff to learn. There's always new stuff to discover, but all these things involve networking. And if you don't understand networking, it'll become really apparent to your peers very, very quickly. So even if you get the job, you're probably going to struggle with the job. So you definitely want to have, because a cybersecurity analyst is going to look at things like, for instance, oh, I see that this IP address with this port number was coming in at this time with this payload. Well, if you don't understand what an IP address is, a port number is, a payload, how we examine the payload with a tool like Wireshark, you won't be able to do the analysis that is necessary for your job.
There are several questions about internships and getting job prepared. What we recommend here is get the learning and get the certifications. As we've mentioned, this is a certificate of completion with the boot camp. But as you ascend in the learning, you can get industry recognized certifications through the Fortinet Training Institute. And that's everything from the introduction to cybersecurity to the operations and automation of the firewall, all the way to specializing in which field you want to get into. So if you want to specialize in network security or operation technology or cloud computing. And by the way, many of these courses have AI built into them and how we use it. They're not specific AI courses, but it's how AI is integrated into the cybersecurity products and solutions. So you can learn that along the way. But you get those, you earn the certification, take the courses, you get an exam exam voucher. If you are a WiCyS member, then you can go and take the exam. Bob said, this is hard. The class and coursework is hard. So learning with your peers is helpful. So come together and you can meet other folks along the way from wherever you are joining in the world. You can participate in this boot camp. Because it is self-paced, you don't have to log in at a specific time. You can do it when it's best for you. So I just want to emphasize, if you are considering taking this, if you are taking other certifications, this is still a good background and fundamentals course. But if you've already got that knowledge, you can skip ahead and take some of the higher level certs. And everyone is very excited to find out how to sign up. So you can sign up as soon as you receive the newsletter link from WiCyS. You can, just to reiterate the program details, it is 9 sessions that happen from February to April. It'll kick off in, well, you'll enroll pretty soon here. And once you get that email, once you sign up, keep an eye out for an email from Fortinet. We will email you the details on how to create an account in the Fortinet Training Institute and then register for the course itself. And from there, you'll hear Bob and get the lessons and a lot of interaction. Some of these things will help you prepare for your background, to prepare for interviews if you're looking for internships and jobs. Bob gives lots of tips along the way to market yourself and really just give you the confidence to take a leap into the career path. There are a few more questions in here, and if we have a chance, well, we've run out of time actually. So I really want to thank everyone for joining. Bob, it's always so enlightening and entertaining to learn with you, and we look forward to seeing many of you on our boot camp and to register. So take a look again for the newsletter and the link to sign up, and that's all we have time for today. Thank you all for being here.
Take care.